In today's video, what you should consider when picking your grade exam pieces. Welcome to Making Music. I am Michael and today we are talking exam pieces. That's right, and what I think you should be considering when picking your program. Before we get into it, I just want to say there's a million and one ways to play music and there's a million and one ways to go about it. My advice is based on my education. I have a bachelor's degree from Trinity, a master's degree from the Royal College, and have been playing professionally and teaching for over 20 years. If you find something you like in this video, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Let me know what you think, leave a comment below. It'd be great if you like the video, and even better if you also subscribe. So, let's get into it. So what we're going to do today, we are going to be discussing the 5 principles that I would look at when picking a program. Then I'm going to talk to you about how I would then go about picking that program, some of the other techniques, and then finally we'll summarize and we'll end it there. You have decided this year is going to be the year you are going to do your grade 3 piano. Well done you. I think it's fantastic to do examinations. I think it's a really great sense of achievement, and also at the end of the day it's a qualification, so why wouldn't you? A lot more positives than negatives, let's just put it that way. So what do? You go down to your local music shop or you order online, you get the little booklet because it's a piano exam, you get your little booklet with 9 pieces in, you have to choose 3, there's 3 lists, you have to choose 1 from each. And you've got 9 pieces there, so you take your little booklet to your next piano lesson and with your teacher. Your teacher plays through the pieces and you choose a program. And normally it goes something like this. You take the list A, you've got your 3 pieces there, you listen to the first one and go, that's alright. Second one, that's a bit better than the first one. And then you listen to the last one and you go, I don't like that one. So you choose the middle one because it's the best of a bad bunch. Great, okay, fine. Let's look at the list B then. So again, you listen to the first one and go, that's alright. You see the second one, ooh, that's Beethoven, I love Beethoven, I'm playing Beethoven for my grade exam pieces. Woohoo! And the third piece, you hardly even listen to that third piece. And then you get to the last section, and you go, okay, this is a modern stroke romantic stroke avant-garde, oh dear. It can be a bit hit and miss this section. Anyway, so you listen to the first piece, oh, don't like that. Second, it's just plain weird, that one. And then the last piece, you're hoping, yes, it's a jazzy piece, that's it, just the one you're going to play, you've got your program and away you go. Is there a better way to do it? Let's find out. Okay, so here are the 5 key things I think you should consider when picking your program. The first of which is consider your audience. So you might be thinking, that's a bit strange, an audience of 1. Actually, it's a very important thing to consider. And let me give you an example. So let's pretend you're in a string quartet and you've been invited to play at a wedding reception. What are you going to choose to play? Probably they're going to be expecting you to play some light-hearted music, something which is going to be in the background, not too intrusive as people are walking around having conversation, drinking their champagne, what have you, celebrating, you know, the wedding and complimenting the bride on her beautiful dress, etc., etc. You probably wouldn't be playing Stockhausen or Schoenberg. If you did, you're probably going to knock on your shoulder saying, excuse me, what are you doing? However, let's consider then the following week you've been invited to do a recital for an audience of learned professors. Actually, your Stockhausen and your Schoenbergs are going to go down rather well. Okay? So at the wedding, you've chosen light music, probably some classics like you know, Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik, Pachelbel's Canon. Who doesn't love Pachelbel's Canon at a wedding? And on the other side, Stockhausen and Schoenberg's modern music, something they may not have heard before. Okay, so where do you think in that spectrum your examiner is going to sit? Bearing in mind that they've probably studied to a very high level, they've probably gone to a music conservatoire or a very good university, got a good degree. Which end of the spectrum do you think they're going to be in? I would suggest probably more towards the Schoenberg, Stockhausen kind of end of the spectrum. Maybe somewhere in the middle, but more towards that side of things, okay? People will have probably heard Pachelbel's Canon many, many times, okay? So if you can give something new, that's going to stand you in good stead. And let me give you an example. So a few years back, I think it was for grade 3 piano, there was, in the list C, there was an arrangement from the theme from Top Cat. A lot of times when they do these arrangements, they can sometimes not be very good, not very pianistic, but this was actually really good, really well arranged, really good fun to play. But did I let any of my students play it? I did, yes, but not for the exam. No. Why not? Because everybody was playing it for the exam. Okay, so what we chose instead, we chose another piece. I believe it was a Malcolm Arnold, something like that, which is a bit more classical, modern classical, that is, a little bit avant-garde, a little bit more different to what they would be expecting. And lo and behold, all my students got merits and distinctions. Okay, I'm not saying it was just because of that, but I'm sure it helped as well. Okay, so that's the first thing I think. Consider your audience. The next thing, which kind of goes into that as well, is to stand out and consider the alternative pieces. I know, you might need to buy a notebook, but it's going to, believe me, it's going to be worth it. If it means you stand out in the right way, that's a really good way to do it. So sometimes, you know, you're going to find a lot of pieces in the lists which are not going to be very good. It can be a bit of a lottery, but you could also just unearth one or two little gems in there, which is really going to stand you in good stead for that exam. Also, by standing out, or if you're just playing the same pieces as everyone else, it's almost like a conveyor belt, you know, of one candidate after the other playing the same thing over and over again. It's like having a whole bunch of red toys just coming through. Oh, blue toy! You see what I mean? It's just something different. You're drawn to it straight away. Okay, that's just human nature. So let me give you an example where, when I was working for the music service, I was often accompanying exams. We'd get examiners to come to the centre, we'd do exams, and I'd accompany those instruments which needed it, such as clarinet, flute, brass instruments, what have you. One teacher who I worked with quite a lot was a clarinet teacher, and his policy was always to enter a student for their grade 1 exam as soon as he took them on as a student. Okay, now we can argue the merits of doing this, but well, I mean, personally, I don't think it was that good an idea. I'm sure he would say it gave him some motivation to get started. Whatever, we can discuss that at another time. However, one year he had 12 students entered for grade 1 exam. Okay, and I was accompanying for all 12. The same examiner for all 12. Not to mention the examiner will probably be doing, you know, say 2 weeks worth of examinations, and if all grade 1 students, all grade 1 clarinet students are doing the same pieces. Okay, so by the third student, it was getting a bit tedious, and you know, here we go again. By the fifth one, it was just like, oh come on, really? I was ready to run. I mean, the examiner was probably much more professional than I was, but I was starting to feel it. I'm getting bored of it now. By the 10th one, my mind was just like zoned out completely gone. Well, not completely gone, but you know what I mean. It was starting to get really over the top. And by the 12th one, I was ready. Yeah, I'm so glad to be finished by the 12th one. So stand out for the right reasons, and that's what I'm saying. Don't neglect the alternatives, because that gives you an opportunity to stand out a little bit more. Okay. Next thing to look at is a balanced program. Okay, you don't want to pick 3 fast pieces. You don't want to pick 3 slow pieces. You don't want to pick 3 pieces all from the same genre that are all avant-garde. No. Pick a balanced program. Okay, so simply, if you're going to pick a fast piece to begin with, then you might want to have a slow one in there somewhere at some point as well. If you're going to pick a couple of slow pieces, you might want to end on a fast one. Okay. Also, don't pick 2 pieces which focus predominantly on the same technique. If you have one piece which is very much focused on, let's say, staccato playing, or very heavily, a lot of tonguing, let's say for instance for a woodwind instrument, you don't want to have the next one and the next one will be the same. No, get some different techniques in there, some different ideas, something which is going to show you off. And that brings me on to my 4th principle, which is show yourself off in the best light. Pick the pieces which are going to be most suited to you. Play to your strengths. So, if you are one of those players who is very energetic and loves playing fast pieces of music, then you're probably going to want to do 2 fast pieces out of the 3. If you're much more of a sentimental type of player who loves to play your Moonlight Sonatas like me and what have you, to really wallow in that feeling, well then there's nothing wrong with that either. So pick the pieces which are going to be more suited to your playing. Also, for instance, if you really struggle playing 4s against 3s, on the piano that is, then you probably want to avoid those pieces which do that, if that makes sense, okay? So, which brings me to my fifth and final principle, and that is the enjoyment. Now, I think a lot of you will probably have been screaming at your screens saying right from the beginning, this is the most important one. How could you leave it right to the end? Is it important to enjoy the program that you picked? Yes, I would agree, but to a point, okay? Now, and let me bring that into some kind of perspective. I would say enjoyment is a bit of a spectrum. So at the right hand side, we've got 100%, obviously the bottom percent. There's some pieces which you're never going to enjoy playing. There's some pieces you're going to always enjoy playing. And then there's a bit in the middle. Now, some pieces you might start enjoying around 40%, but it actually increases. And let me give you an example. Alex was a student of mine. He, if you're watching Alex, hi Alex, how you doing, buddy? He did his grade 8 with me a few years back, and for his list C we chose a piece by a composer called Douglas Finch. Now, I know Douglas Finch because he was the head of keyboard at Trinity College when I was there, so obviously when I see that, you know, his name on the list, I'm immediately drawn to it. It turns out it was a really good piece as well. We listened to it, yeah, this is good, this is something different, bit avant-garde, bit yeah, we can make this work. Then we started to play it, and the enjoyment level was, I would say, around 40%. Then, as we started to play it, we got into the first section. We got a bit, we got it down a little bit, and before you know it, jumped to 65%. Ooh, this is sounding good. Start on the next page, next section, drop down maybe to 50%. By the time we could actually play through it, our enjoyment was right up there to 80-90%. And by the exam, I mean, we had an ace up our sleeve for that exam. We really felt it was that good. And so he was like, yeah, let's bring it on. So he was like 100% when he got to the exam. Lo and behold, Alex gets the distinction for his grade 8, okay? I'm not saying that's the only reason why he got his distinction, but I'm sure it helped, okay? So consider your enjoyment, absolutely, but be realistic about it and don't be stubborn. Consider the other things as well. Your audience, what's he gonna like? What's he gonna, or he or she, sorry, what are they gonna enjoy listening to, okay? Just as important to what you're gonna enjoy playing. Okay. So, how do I go about choosing a program for a grade exam? Do I go out and buy the little booklet, again, pretend it's a piano exam, going back to, let's say, pretend it's a grade 3 exam? No, I don't. The first thing I would do is I'll get the recordings from the board that I've chosen to do that exam. So let's pretend it's the Associated Board. I would go and buy the Associated Board official recordings for that exam. What that does is it gives you an idea about all the pieces from all the 3 lists you can choose from. Not just the ones which are in the little booklet, but all the alternative pieces as well. And from there, you've got a much bigger set of choices, a bigger palette that you can paint with, put it that way. And I'll go through each one of the pieces and I would list the pros and the cons of each one. So for instance, I might look at one and say, okay, it's a nice piece, this one, very melodic, reasonably fun to play, but everyone's going to play it, so that's a minus. Okay, this one here, positives, avant-garde, not many people are going to play it, but it's not a very good piece and doesn't really sit very well under the fingers for this particular candidate. I'm not going to play that one either. Okay, so you then, by doing it that way, you build up an idea about which ones are the better pieces, which ones are the worst, not so good pieces, and you find that you end up with 2 or 3, maybe even 4 sometimes, pieces for each one of those 3 lists that you can choose from. So, and that's how I would go about it. And then depending on the student, depending on what their strengths are, I will then construct the program for each one of those individually. Okay, so in summary, these are the 5 principles that I've talked to you about today. So first and foremost, consider your audience. Number 2, stand out, consider the alternative pieces. Choose a balanced program, play to your strengths, and consider the enjoyment, not just of you, but also the examiner. Okay, and then finally the other tip was listen to the music and construct the program that way rather than just relying on what's in the little booklet. I hope you found something useful there. Do please let me know your thoughts. I know there's a lot of different ways to go about this, as I said previously in this video. It'd be great to hear from you how you go about picking your pieces. We may even do a follow-up on this video at some point, depending on how much interest there is. All that's left to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you found something useful. Please leave me a comment, like the video, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.